Ethan Caldwell, a cold-hearted CEO who doesn't believe in love, is forced to hire Olivia Parker as his fake wife to appease his mother. But when real feelings start to emerge, can they break free from the contract, or will they lose each other forever? A captivating love story awaits. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to hit like, share it with your friends and family, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more meaningful stories. Ethan Caldwell is the kind of man who commands attention the moment he walks into a room. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with a strong chiseled jawline and piercing blue eyes, he exudes the power and authority of a young CEO. At just 29, he has taken Caldwell Industries to new heights, expanding its reach and securing million-dollar deals that no one thought possible. But with that success comes arrogance and detachment. Ethan never lets emotions interfere with his decisions. Since childhood, Ethan had witnessed his parents' marriage fall apart. His father, Richard Caldwell, a ruthless businessman, betrayed his mother, running off with a younger model and leaving Margaret Caldwell to raise Ethan alone. That betrayal cemented Ethan's belief that love was nothing more than an illusion. To him, marriage was simply a contractual arrangement, nothing more, nothing less. However, his mother, Margaret Caldwell, saw things differently. A sharp, formidable woman who never lost in negotiations, Margaret believed that her son was not just an heir but the future of their empire, and to be a proper successor, he needed a stable family. She wanted Ethan to settle down to keep him from becoming an emotionless workaholic. When Ethan repeatedly refused every setup Margaret arranged, she gave him an ultimatum: if you don't get married within a year, I will strip you of your inheritance. For the first time, Ethan felt cornered. It wasn't about the money, his personal wealth was more than enough to live lavishly forever. But he refused to let his mother manipulate him. The question was, how could he convince her without actually getting married? Meanwhile, in a world far from Ethan's luxurious lifestyle, Olivia Parker was struggling to survive. At 25, Olivia had long wavy brown hair and warm brown eyes. She wasn't the type to turn heads in a crowd, but there was something about her, an undeniable charm that made people feel at ease. She was quick-witted, resourceful, and always carried a smile, though few knew the heavy burdens she bore. Her life had been ordinary until tragedy struck 4 years ago. Her parents died in a car accident, leaving her with not just grief but a mountain of debt they hadn't paid off. Once a literature student dreaming of becoming a novelist, Olivia was forced to drop out of college and work non-stop just to stay afloat. Now, she worked as a waitress in a small sandwich shop, earning just enough to cover rent and food while still trying to write in the late hours when the cafe emptied out. Her life was predictable until she met Ethan Caldwell. That morning was especially busy. The tiny sandwich shop was packed, and Olivia was rushing between tables, taking orders and delivering food. When she reached the counter, she noticed a tall man standing there, phone in hand, his expression irritated as if he had just dealt with an unpleasant business deal. "Good morning, sir. What would you like?" she asked with a polite smile. The man looked up, and for a brief second, Olivia was caught off guard. His piercing blue eyes studied her, sharp and assessing. He had an air of danger, intensely attractive but unapproachable. "Black coffee, no sugar," he said, his voice deep and commanding. Olivia nodded and quickly made his order, but less than a minute later, she heard his irritated voice again. "What is this?" She turned back to see Ethan holding his coffee, looking unimpressed. "Your coffee?" she replied. "I said no sugar." "And there isn't any sugar," Olivia crossed her arms. "I made it myself. You can taste it." Ethan held her gaze for a moment before taking a sip. After a brief pause, he set the cup down, the corners of his lips curling slightly. "Fine. At least you know how to do your job properly." Olivia rolled her eyes but said nothing. She had dealt with difficult customers before. Another rich, entitled businessman wasn't anything new. But in that brief moment, an idea sparked in Ethan's mind. She was ordinary, not someone who would attract too much attention, yet she had a strong personality, unaffected by money or status. She could be the perfect person to play the role of his wife without unnecessary complications. A crazy plan began to take shape. That evening, just as Olivia was finishing her shift, a sleek luxury car pulled up outside the cafe. She frowned as Ethan Caldwell stepped out, his sharp blue eyes locked onto hers with purpose. "I have a proposal for you," he said, his voice calm but firm. "A proposal?" Olivia folded her arms. "If it's about coffee, I don't serve it after hours." Ethan smirked slightly. "It's not about coffee. I want you to pretend to be my wife." Olivia stared at him, dumbfounded. "Excuse me? I need a fake wife to convince my mother." "You'll be well compensated. All you have to do is play the role. After a year, you'll be free." Olivia laughed in disbelief, shaking her head. "Do I look like a bad actress to you?" "No," Ethan said, his gaze unwavering. "I think you're someone who needs money." Olivia stiffened. He wasn't wrong. Her debt weighed on her every single day, and if his offer was as generous as he claimed, it could solve her financial problems. But could she really pretend to be married to a cold, arrogant man like him? She met his piercing blue gaze, feeling as if she were standing at a crossroads in her life. After a long pause, Olivia took a deep breath and said, "I agree." 1 week after signing the contract, Olivia moved into Ethan's mansion. The estate, located in an exclusive neighborhood, was modern and extravagant, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a sprawling garden. Everything was meticulously designed, as if it had been taken straight from an interior design magazine. But to Olivia, it felt cold, lacking the warmth of a true home. From the very first day, she felt stifled by Ethan's way of living. He was a man of routine, obsessed with order and precision. Everything in the house was perfectly arranged, with no room for disruption. Olivia, on the other hand, thrived in spontaneity and comfort, unused to such rigid rules. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen barefoot, wearing an oversized t-shirt, and opened the fridge in search of breakfast. "What do you think you're doing?" a deep, icy voice cut through the air. Olivia turned to see Ethan standing in the doorway, arms crossed, dressed sharply in a tailored suit as if he were about to walk into an important meeting. "I'm looking for something to eat." "Isn't this my house too?" she replied, raising an eyebrow. Ethan stepped forward, pulling open the fridge door. "You've rearranged everything." Olivia blinked. "Rearranged? I just took out some milk and bread." Ethan let out a sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. This arrangement was going to be more difficult than he thought. He stared at her for a long moment, then let out a sigh. "Listen, I like everything in its place. If you want to live here, you have to respect the rules." Olivia crossed her arms, a smirk playing on her lips. "Your rules. Fine, Mr. Perfectionist. I'll try not to mess up your perfect little world." Ethan frowned but said nothing. Instead, he poured himself a cup of coffee and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Olivia shaking her head in frustration. She didn't know how long she could endure this, but one thing was certain, she wouldn't let Ethan Caldwell control her so easily. Just 2 days after Olivia moved in, Margaret made an unexpected visit. She stepped into the mansion with the aura of a powerful woman, her sharp eyes scanning every corner before settling on Olivia. "Olivia, you look absolutely radiant," Margaret smiled, though there was an unmistakable undertone to it. "Married life with Ethan must be wonderful, isn't it?" Olivia quickly plastered on a sweet smile. "Yes, it's been great." Ethan, standing beside her, tilted his head slightly, scrutinizing her as if assessing how well she could play her role. Margaret wasn't easily fooled. She eyed them with suspicion. "Oh, have you two gotten used to living together?" Olivia felt her heartbeat quicken. If she showed even the slightest hesitation, Margaret would catch on immediately. Suddenly, Ethan wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. "Of course, Mom." Olivia is an amazing wife. Olivia stiffened, feeling the warmth of his body against hers. She had to remind herself to stay calm as Ethan gave her waist a light squeeze, as if silently urging her to play along. Margaret observed them for a long moment before finally smiling in approval. Good. I'm looking forward to your anniversary celebration. Olivia swallowed hard. An anniversary celebration? That meant they'd have to keep pretending in front of even more people. The moment Margaret left, Olivia immediately pushed Ethan away and glared at him. What the hell was that? Ethan simply shrugged, as if holding her had been nothing more than a casual gesture. Just helping you stay in character. Olivia bit her lip, her heart still beating faster than it should. But she quickly reminded herself this was just a game she couldn't afford to mistake for reality. A week later, as Olivia was walking down the stairs with a box of documents in her arms, she suddenly lost her footing. Everything happened too fast. She braced herself for a painful fall, but instead of hitting the ground, she landed in a pair of strong arms. Olivia opened her eyes, and right in front of her was Ethan's striking face. He had caught her just in time, holding her securely against him. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other. Ethan still hadn't let go, and Olivia could feel his warm breath near her cheek. Her heart pounded erratically. Why was she feeling nervous? It was just a minor accident. Ethan was the first to break the silence. You should be more careful, his voice was low and husky. But instead of releasing her immediately, he held on to her for a moment longer, as if even he was surprised by his own reaction. Finally, Olivia gently pushed him away, trying to mask her flustered state. Got it. Thanks. She turned and walked off, but the warmth of his touch still lingered. No matter how much she tried to ignore it, Olivia couldn't help but notice that Ethan seemed different lately. He wasn't as cold as before. Occasionally, she caught him looking at her with an unreadable expression. Ethan, too, had started paying more attention to her. He no longer scolded her whenever she misplaced things in the house. Once, when she got lost on her way to the supermarket, he didn't get annoyed. He just sighed and drove over to pick her up without a single complaint. She wasn't sure what was happening between them until one night when Olivia came down with a high fever. Ethan stayed up all night taking care of her. He placed a cold compress on her forehead, helped her take her medicine, and even held her hand while she drifted in and out of sleep. When she woke up, she found Ethan asleep next to her bed, his hand still wrapped around hers. Her heart skipped a beat. For the first time, she began to wonder, was this still just a contract marriage, or had something real started to change? Ethan Caldwell was not the kind of man who let emotions get the best of him. At least, that's what he always believed. But lately, things weren't as simple as they used to be. He found himself noticing Olivia in ways he never had before. At first, he convinced himself it was all part of the contract. He needed to make sure she played the perfect wife. But when he saw her laughing with another man, that excuse suddenly felt meaningless. That night, they attended a charity event sponsored by Caldwell Industries. Ethan was busy entertaining business partners, but his gaze kept wandering across the room, searching for Olivia. And when he finally spotted her, an unfamiliar irritation settled in his chest. She was standing beside a young businessman, well-dressed, charming, and clearly enjoying their conversation. Olivia smiled, and something about that smile made Ethan clench his jaw. Without thinking, he strode toward them. Olivia. His voice was sharper than usual. She turned to him, startled by his tense expression. Ethan. Before she could say anything else, he placed a hand on her waist and pulled her close. Then, turning to the other man, he spoke in a deep, commanding tone. Thanks for keeping my wife entertained, but I think it's time she came back to me. The man raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Olivia, caught off guard, didn't react right away, too busy processing the warmth of Ethan's hand on her waist. She had never seen him act like this before. Once they were away from the crowd, Olivia frowned up at him. "Ethan, what the hell was that?" Sticking to the role, he replied curtly, though even he wasn't sure if that was the real reason. After that night, Olivia noticed a shift in Ethan's behavior. He started remembering little details about her, how she liked her coffee with 2 sugars, how she hated onions in her food, how she always read before bed. One afternoon, after a long day at work, Olivia came home to find a small box on the kitchen counter. She opened it and found strawberry tarts, her favorite. Turning to Ethan, who was casually reading a document on the couch, she raised an eyebrow. "Did you buy these?" Without looking up, he simply said, "Yeah." She crossed her arms. "Why?" This time, he did look up, his usually cold gray eyes holding a rare softness. "Because you like them." Olivia felt her heart skip a beat. She didn't know how to respond, so she simply opened the box and took a bite of the pastry. But as the sweetness of the strawberries melted on her tongue, she realized one thing: Ethan wasn't just a fake husband. He was slowly becoming an important part of her life. A month later, during a grand party hosted by Caldwell Corporation, Ethan and Olivia found themselves in yet another unexpected situation. As usual, Margaret made her entrance with a scrutinizing gaze. She never fully trusted this marriage, and Ethan knew she was looking for any sign that could prove they were just putting on an act. Everything was going smoothly until an old family friend approached them, his tone laced with curiosity. "You two make such a lovely couple, but to be honest, I've never actually seen you display any affection publicly. Ethan, you've never kissed your wife in front of everyone, have you?" Olivia froze. So did Ethan. The people around them started paying attention, and Olivia could feel Margaret's piercing gaze on them. Ethan gently squeezed her hand. "You don't mind, do you?" Before she could react, he leaned in. His lips met hers, gentle yet possessive. Olivia's eyes widened, but within seconds, she forgot that this was supposed to be just an act. His lips were soft, yet there was a firm determination behind them. He wasn't just pretending, he was truly kissing her. And the most surprising part? She found herself kissing him back. When Ethan finally pulled away, the room erupted into applause, but Olivia couldn't hear anything. All she could feel was the wild rhythm of her heartbeat and the way Ethan's deep gaze never left hers. This was no longer just a game. After that kiss, Olivia found herself afraid. She kept reminding herself that this was just a contract. Once the year ended, so would everything between them. But if that were true, why did it hurt to think about that day? She tried to keep her distance from Ethan, not wanting to get swept away by her emotions. But ironically, Ethan did the opposite. He sought her out, sat next to her when she read, asked about her day as if he truly cared. She didn't know what was happening between them, but one thing was certain: her heart was no longer pretending. Olivia had tried to convince herself that she could maintain a safe distance from Ethan, that she wouldn't let her feelings take over. But every small gesture of his, every glance, every accidental touch was enough to make her heart flutter. She knew she had fallen for him, but it didn't matter because this was just a contract. Things became even more complicated when another woman entered their lives. That night, as Olivia descended the stairs, she heard a woman's voice echoing from the living room. "Ethan, I missed you." She stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding. From where she stood, she saw a stunning blonde woman with deep blue eyes. She stood before Ethan, her expression filled with emotion. Ethan crossed his arms, his voice cold. "What are you doing here, Claire?" Claire. The name rang in Olivia's mind like an alarm. "I heard you got married." Claire tilted her head, a smirk playing on her lips. "Really, Ethan? You, the man who always said he didn't believe in love, actually got married?" Olivia held her breath. "That has nothing to do with you," Ethan said flatly. "Oh, but I find it fascinating." Claire stepped closer, placing a hand on Ethan's chest, her gaze knowing. "Do you love her, or is this just another one of your games?" Olivia's heart clenched. She didn't wait to hear Ethan's response. She turned and walked away, but not before hearing Claire's amused chuckle. If this is just a contract, then why are you playing the role so well? After that night, Olivia could no longer look at Ethan the same way. She started to wonder, was she just a pawn in his game? Had he ever truly been sincere with her, or was he just trying to keep up appearances for his mother's sake? She began keeping her distance. She no longer had breakfast with him, no longer spoke with him in the evenings, and avoided him whenever possible. When Ethan tried to start a conversation, she responded with short, detached answers. He noticed the change in her, and he hated it. One evening, he walked into her study and found her packing up her books. "Olivia," he stood in front of her, his voice low. "You're avoiding me." She didn't look at him. "I don't know what you're talking about." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "You've been like this ever since Claire showed up." "Why?" Olivia tightened her grip on the book in her hands. "Because she was right, wasn't she?" Ethan frowned. "Right about what?" She finally met his gaze, her eyes glistening. "I'm just part of this contract, nothing more, nothing less." Ethan stiffened. He had never imagined Olivia would doubt him like this, and he didn't know what to say because he himself was conflicted. She let out a shaky laugh. "Ethan, you were never serious about me, were you?" He opened his mouth, about to say something, but nothing came out. And Olivia understood. His silence was her answer. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind a tangled mess. She had feelings for Ethan, but she couldn't stay if it would only end up hurting her. She had to leave. The next morning, when Ethan woke up, Olivia was gone. Her wedding ring sat silently on the table. Ethan stared at it, his mind blank. She was gone, and he didn't know if he could bring her back. The house felt emptier than ever. Ethan never thought Olivia could leave behind such a gaping void. No more soft footsteps in the morning, no more scent of coffee she brewed, no more late-night conversations. He felt a loss he couldn't quite describe, and then a truth hit him like a powerful wave. He loved her. Not because of the contract, not because of his mother's pressure, but because of her, her strength, her kindness, and all the little things she brought into his life. Ethan had never known this feeling before, and he hated it. He had to find her. He searched everywhere for Olivia, but she had disappeared. It wasn't until he received a letter from her lawyer that he learned she had moved to another city to pursue her dream of becoming a writer. Ethan clenched the letter in his hand, his heart pounding. He couldn't let her go like this, because without Olivia by his side, everything felt meaningless. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly powerless. He, a man known for his cold demeanor, logic, and control, now stood before the door of a small apartment in another city, his heart racing like a lovesick teenager. When Olivia left, he thought he could forget her, but with each passing day, he realized his life was incomplete without her. He missed the way she furrowed her brows while reading, the way she laughed when teasing him, and even the way she argued with him, stubborn yet utterly endearing. He had spent 2 weeks searching for her, and now he was here. Ethan took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Footsteps sounded from inside, and the door opened. Olivia stood there, her hair tied up in a casual ponytail, wearing an oversized sweater and simple jeans. She looked different from the last time he saw her, lighter, freer, but her eyes still held a hint of caution. She froze at the sight of him. "Ethan." For a moment, Ethan said nothing, just looking at her. She was just as beautiful as he remembered. She was still the Olivia he loved. Then, in a low, steady voice, he said, "I don't care about the contract anymore." Olivia blinked in confusion. Ethan stepped closer, his voice more certain this time. "I'm not here because of my mother. I'm not here for anyone else. I'm here for you." Olivia opened her mouth to say something, but Ethan gently took her hand. "Olivia, I love you. Her heart pounded. She wanted to believe him, but fear still lingered. "Ethan, you don't have to do this. We have no obligations anymore," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan shook his head. "I'm not doing this because of any obligation. I'm doing this because I can't live without you." She searched his eyes, looking for sincerity. Ethan took a deep breath and said the most important words of all. "If I have to, I'll give up the company, give up everything just to have you by my side." His words washed away every doubt in Olivia's heart. He truly loved her. A sob escaped her lips as tears welled up in her eyes. Ethan gently wiped away the tear that rolled down her cheek. "Olivia, come back with me." She looked at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. And in that instant, they both knew they had found each other, not because of a contract, but because of real love. A few months later, a grand wedding was held at the Caldwell estate. Dressed in an elegant white gown, Olivia stood before the mirror, still in disbelief that she was about to marry Ethan for real this time. The door to the dressing room opened, and Margaret Caldwell stepped inside. The powerful woman who had once forced her son into marriage now looked at Olivia with nothing but warmth. "You truly changed him," Margaret said gently, stepping forward and taking Olivia's hands. Olivia hesitated. "I don't know if I'm good enough." Margaret chuckled. "You're the only one who can make him smile, Olivia, and that is more than enough." Those words filled Olivia's heart with emotion. As the wedding march began, Ethan stood at the end of the aisle, his eyes locked solely on her. When she finally reached him, he took her hand and held it firmly. No more contracts, no more lies, only love. They exchanged vows, and when Ethan leaned in to kiss her, Olivia knew this was the happiness she had been searching for all along. True love can start in the most unexpected ways, and they were proof of that. Thank you for taking the time to read this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more meaningful stories like this.